am so excited that you're here. If we haven't met yet, my name is Raluca. I am a life coach and I specialize in health anxiety because it was part of my life for 7 years, and I lived with it for 7 years, consumed by fear, by sorrow, by pain, and anxiety. But it's also something that's very dear to my heart because if it wasn't for health anxiety, I wouldn't have taken this journey of healing and really getting to know who I truly am and to come on the other side of fear and to know that there is a life beyond fear. And I wouldn't have taken this journey that led me to trust myself again and to trust my body again. So on my journey, what I struggled with the most, I found, was really being able to control my mind, to control those worst case scenarios, the what ifs. So today what I wanted to do is really give you a series of questions, which I call the emotion shifter questions, which is something that I have developed and I teach my clients. And this is something that I've used to really switch my focus and to really overcome the what ifs whenever a challenging moment or a challenging situation arises. So our questions determine our thoughts, and our thoughts determine how we feel. And how we feel determines the actions that we take and how we show up in our lives. So if we want to change how we feel, if we want to no longer feel fearful and live this life consumed by fear, we have to change our thoughts, which start with the questions that we ask ourselves. So whenever you experience a symptom, right, you might feel something throughout your body, then maybe your brain goes to, what if it's cancer? What if it's a blood clot? And then automatically what that does is it triggers a series of thoughts that really create the snowball of, what if, what is it going to happen? If it is cancer, what am I going to do? Are my kids going to be okay? So it triggers a lot of other questions, but a lot of fearful thoughts as well, which what they do is they keep you stuck in this fear. And they also create what we call mind movies. Our mind really, as I was saying earlier, really works based on questions. So whenever we ask it a question without even wanting to, without realizing, our brain just goes directly into imagining what that scenario would look like. And you could do that now. You could stop the video if you want to try it. Like every time you just ask what would happen, or what if it's cancer, your brain just spirals right away and it starts creating all of these scenarios in your brain of what that would look like in your life, what you would be feeling, what others would be feeling, what your kids might be doing, maybe how they would feel, would they be able to take care of you, your partner, and so on. So it's a whole story, a whole movie that's being created behind the questions that you ask yourself. And what happens is that our brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what we imagine. And that's why your fear feels so real, right? I have so many clients who tell me all the time, yeah, but it feels so real. Yes, because our brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what we imagine. So that's why it's so important to ask ourselves the right questions so we can form a different movie in our brain, a movie where we have control over the outcome, where we will know what the outcome is. Because right now, when you ask it, what if it's cancer? What if it's a blood clot? We don't know the answer to that. And the brain, it creates even more chaos into the mind, and you start to be even more agitated, creates more anxiety, more fear. So it actually does the opposite of what we think it would do. Right? Because we ask those questions because we think that we might be, we want to be safe, right? So we think that we might have control over that, or if we know the answer to that, then we will feel safe. But in reality, it creates really the opposite. So the emotion shifter questions will really help you to, in those moments, whenever your brain says, what if it's cancer? What if it's a blood clot? Because your brain will always give you those questions. It's just trying to protect you, right? Nothing else. Know that you have a hypervigilant brain and nothing has gone wrong. But we can help the brain to see that there is a different possibility. We can help it to shift the focus in a different direction. So take a moment right now just to write down, if you have a journal or just on a piece of paper or maybe even on your phone, that's okay too. Just take a moment to write down your what ifs. What's going through your mind right now? What questions are you asking yourself right now? Just write it down so that you can see them, so then we can work on them with the emotion shifter questions. Okay, so you can pause this video and come back to it when you're ready. All right, so welcome back. So how we're going to use the emotion shifter questions. So those are 3 questions to ask yourself in any moment where you are dealing with a what if. It could be either when you are doing, if you are practicing journaling, or it could even be right, you're cooking, you're doing something and you catch your what if, and right away you want to use the emotion shifter questions to switch your emotions, to switch your focus, tell the brain that there is a different possibility. So let's say, for example, if what you wrote down is, what if it's cancer? Then the first thing that we want to do, we want to shift it and show it that there is another possibility and a different outcome. So we would reframe it as, what if it's not cancer? So simple, right? So easy. But look what it does to the mind. Already when you ask it, what if it's not cancer? Did you feel different within yourself? Right? It's like, oh, that's a possibility too. Because the brain sometimes just wants to be focused on the negative scenarios, right? So just asking, what if it's not cancer? What if it's not a blood clot? Right? Simple as that. So that's the first thing that we want to do. Second thing that we want to ask it, how would that make me feel? So if it's not cancer, how would that make me feel? Relieved, maybe? Calm? At peace? And here, take a moment to just sit with that emotion of how that would make you feel. Don't go right away to the next question. Sit for a second. You can even put your hand on your heart and just sit for a second with that feeling. I would feel relieved. And then we ask it a third question. What would that look like in my life? What we do with this question is we want to create a different movie in our brain. We want the mind to focus on something else. So when we ask it, what would that look different in my life? Then we can start creating a movie that we chose to create, and not what the mind is always telling us that it would be like, or that's going to happen. So you could say, well, I would be probably more present with my kids, right? And you can even close your eyes here if that's easier for you, to start seeing that, how you would maybe play with them differently because you're there with them present. Maybe you would be there for your husband differently, right? Maybe your relationship would be different. Maybe you would have more energy throughout the day. Maybe even seeing yourself waking up in the morning and having more energy because you're not so focused on the fear, right? So what would that look like for you? Give yourself a moment to really create that movie. Like, imagine that you are at the cinema and you are just really seeing this movie playing. What it would be if it's not cancer, if you would feel relieved, at peace and calm. What would that look like? And just really give yourself time to see and to picture this movie. This is a really, really great method to be used at any time when you have a what if. For the next couple of weeks, really commit to yourself and be focused. Every time you catch the what if, I caught it. Use the emotion shifter questions and just go, what if it's not? What if it's not cancer? What if it's not a blood clot? How would that make me feel? I would feel relief. Okay, so what would that look like in my life? Oh, I would be more calm. I would do this. I would do that. I'd be more present. I would be, right? And just tell yourself that. You don't necessarily have to write them down. Of course, it's a great idea if you want to write them down, but you don't have to always. But just commit to yourself to doing that throughout the day, every time you catch yourself having a what if. It's going to be challenging for sure at first, but you can do hard things. And I promise you, if you use the emotion shifter questions, it's going to change your whole life, because you're going to be able to change your focus. You're going to be able to change your emotions, your thoughts, how you show up, and you're going to see massive changes if you just commit to using this method. If this was really helpful, if you love this, but you love to dig deeper into having more tools and learning how to trust yourself in your body again, DM me on Instagram, and I'd be more than happy to talk about the ways that we could work together on one-on-one coaching, and the way that I could help you to get those tools and to really trust yourself again and your body, and to really have that life that you were actually meant to have. So thank you for being here. Sending you much love and light.